Hey guys, we're back in the movie cage, and my big question first and foremost is how does someone review a film like Megalopolis? It's such a difficult this is such a crazy endeavor. And I mean, I asked that question. And I also ask, how do you guys trust someone like me to review Megalopolis? I mean, look at my channel. I only have like what 3 reviews, very small handful of reviews, one of which I was supposed to have done like over a month ago and I refused to get to. But I mean, looking at my reviews, my first review is Long Legs, and I cannot stand that review. I think I did a terrible job at it. My second review was so sophisticated. It was the response to my first terrible review. And I think it's a better review, but in my opinion, of a shit movie, of a movie that, and oh my gosh, I see I'm already off the rails with those. But the reason why Long Legs for me is such a terrible review is because how does someone not spoil something that's genuinely special? And that was my struggle with Long Legs. I think that it is a special film. It's not a perfect film, but it's very special in a lot of ways. And my desperation was not to ruin that experience for the viewer. And so I tried desperately to go about it in that way. And in doing so, it made the review very weak because it's something so special. Whereas with um, Deadpool 3, for example, it's such a sophisticated review. I really went into insane details on it because there isn't anything special about the film. It's formulaic. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's so easy to review a film that is formulaic. You just go down the list of the typical discussions and it's so easy to do and there's nothing necessarily special about Deadpool 3 at all. And that's what makes it so easy to review. And the reason why I bring my reviews up is, well, take accountability for my own shortcomings, obviously, but to also be honest and genuine. There's no real way for me to review Megalopolis in a formatted way that I feel would work. It is a discussion piece, and I think that you should trust me to tell you about this genuinely because what do I have to lose? Like, I have a tiny channel. I don't really, admittedly, I'm not the best at reviewing. I'm still, you know, I'm still trying to find my way in this because I do genuinely love film. Do I like the direction film has gone in? No. But I do love the idea of film. I do love to embellish in amazing film history. And my range of film knowledge, I think, is pretty decent. But I still need to expand even more, admittedly so. But I think that you should trust me to review Megalopolis because I have nothing to lose. I'm just here to tell you what I think, the truth. Um, and I'm here to tell you not to be closed-minded about it because it's so much more than just a this film is not in a box, and you have to come to terms with that. And really, the reality is with this film, this Megalopolis has filtered so many reviewers, people that have made their lives dedicated to reviewing film. A lot of them have been filtered by Megalopolis. There's no other way to discuss it other than to just honestly say that. There's so many people that hate this film, and really it's not the film's fault. The film is frustrating. Absolutely. You're completely allowed to be frustrated about Megalopolis. It wants you to be frustrated. It goes out of its way to be frustrating, it feels like. And honestly, it does. But it's fine to feel frustrated, but to turn that frustration into hatred, your disdain for this film, it says more about you as a person and as a reviewer than it does about the film itself. If you hate this film, and really the closest thing that I can compare this film to, um, from just a general point of view, from the film, the piece of entertainment itself, and also the reception to this piece of entertainment itself, is to compare it to Neon Genesis Evangelion, and that's an anime. I know that's oh man, let me just give my honest thoughts here. Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of the most hated and beloved pieces of entertainment ever created. I think more people have come around to appreciating Evangelion, but there's this deep hatred for that anime. And I think also there's this passion for this anime that makes it in a lot of ways overrated as well. And I love Ava. Don't get me wrong. I appreciated Ava. Ava is something that crushed my heart in a way that entertainment hadn't done before. But Ava is a piece of entertainment, and Megalopolis is also a piece of entertainment that tells the viewer about themselves in all the worst ways possible. And the viewer is going to feel some type of way about it. They're going to reject it. They will not come to terms with it. They will be angry at it. They will say that it's garbage because the viewer, a lot of these hating critics, a lot of them they do not want to accept that Megalopolis tells them about their faults. That's just the reality of it. And the same thing like Evangelion. All the characters in Evangelion are so flawed. Evangelion's characters are everyone in society, but the bad side of them, the side that they don't want to address, the side that they hide, that's what Ava does best. And people either appreciate it for being honest and being flawed and being imperfect like the human race is, or they lash out at it. And Megalopolis has received mostly hatred, I feel like. I feel like it's going to take time for people to appreciate this film because it is very flawed in a lot of ways. But it also asks the viewer to look in the mirror, essentially. This is so crazy. This is I don't know how to go about this, but really I want to be fair. I want to be genuine. This is something I had to think about for like 3 hours doing nothing. I am a complete mess. This is my bedhead. Okay, so I've really been thinking about this film in so many different aspects because I was very frustrated in the beginning because I was trying to think of this film in a box. I was trying to think of how I would review this film like I did, Deadpool 3, which was this super sophisticated long review, in very articulately going through every noteworthy point about the film. And I just realized that I can't do that. You can't put this film in a box. It refuses to be put in a box in some ways that a lot of people will hold against it. And a lot of people have lashed out at the film. A lot of people have lashed out at Francis Ford Coppola from the very beginning. The hatred from the first time this film was shown was very, very blatant. And I get it, but you've been filtered. I'm sorry that is what it is. You refuse to accept your own shortcomings when thinking about this film. You refuse to accept the shortcomings of our society with your hatred of this film. You refuse, and our society refuses to come to terms with our shortcomings. And that is what this film, in essence, is trying to say. It's saying, stop being stupid. Stop ignoring reality. Stop doing the things that we're doing that's helping nothing. That's not helping our society. Because if we don't, we have no future. And this film wants us to have a future. This film wants us to come to terms with our differences. It wants us to realize that we can't just cancel people. We can't just ostracize certain thoughts just because we don't like them. We have to come to terms that people are going to be different, and everyone is flawed, and it could lead us to the unknown future, or it can destroy us. And that is such a powerful message in a way that's simple. This film is simple, yet it's sophisticated. Like, oh my God. I was watching this film and I was so frustrated the whole time because I'm like, I understand the concept, but everything is so everywhere and I don't get a lot of this, even though I understand what the film is going for. And there is no resolve. You don't get that in this film in any meaningful way, and it's on purpose. And you have to accept that you're not going to you're not going to get the satisfaction. You're not going to get the ending. That is anything but what this film is trying to do. I was thinking in such a small-minded way, like, who is this film for? I don't understand, because the film embellishes in obsessing over the rich and just completely almost ignoring the poor. And I thought that this film is made for someone in the 80s, because in the 80s, people were obsessive over rich people to this really kind of hyper-focused way that's so weird for the 80s. And nowadays, like, we hate the idea of giving the rich the time of day. Like, we cannot stand it. We're so narcissistic as a society now that we'd rather fake that we're the rich and elite until we make it, which 99% of us won't. It is what it is. So we're genuinely so fucking narcissistic. I'm like, this film has this futuristic look and tone to it that I feel is for a younger generation, but it's made for people that's like in the 80s, because it's obsessive over, you know, fashion and the rich and in the haves as opposed to have-nots. And I was like, I feel like this film is for nobody. And I was holding it against the film, but this film is doing this shit on purpose. Like it is doing this on purpose, and we have to accept that. Is this film genius? No. I really don't think that it's genius. It isn't predicting anything. It's addressing everything that we already know. It's addressing all the things that we're ignoring. Like, it's addressing now. And really, it's, if anything, this is addressing us, but it's also addressing Hollywood. It's addressing the elites. It's addressing our genuine stagnation as a society and as a culture. And I think this is another reason why this film is so hated. I mean, just look at our super obsession with nostalgia. Just in the film space alone, let alone every other, entertainment form right now. I mean, films, video games, definitely. I mean, look how many remasters and remakes there are, because, well, all of our new ideas are shit in video games for the most part. And then with film, with Hollywood, you could tell that Coppola really sees the stagnation. And we gave so much shit to like Scorsese because he basically called Marvel films like garbage. and people were so upset with him. And it's like, but it's true, whether you want to accept it or not. And Coppola is saying the same thing, like our nostalgia obsession and repeating the same thing over and over, it is keeping us from the utopia that we want to be on. And we can have a whole discussion on utopias and whatnot, but I guess from his perspective, a creative utopia. And not to bring Coppola himself into this, but I mean, the reality is that he put so much of his own money into making this film so that he can have his own vision. And I think that he knew that this film wasn't going to do well. I feel like he would have known, and I didn't think that from an early perspective. I was waiting for years for this to come to fruition, and the first reception that it got, I couldn't understand it. It's like, it's Coppola and he has creative freedom, and I thought that everyone was going to love and embrace it, but I didn't realize what he was going to talk about. And now looking back at it, he had to have known that this film was going to get so much hate, and that the institutions that be were going to destroy it and try to diminish its importance and its message and have viewers look over it. And I encourage everyone to look at this film. I think that in a lot of ways it's super flawed and a lot of people aren't going to get it, but I think people need to have this discussion because we're so obsessed with watching the same slop over and over and over again that our society refuses to watch things that make them think now. We're so reliant on nostalgia. We're just going back to the past. And this film is saying, if you continue on that path, you'll never find anything new. You'll never find anything beautiful. You'll just continue to regurgitate garbage and spiral into depravity and just trash. Like, honestly, I'm not even doing this film justice by how I'm speaking. I'm really not. Like, it's Maybe I am, because I'm talking about this in more than just a box. I think that really Coppola really wanted to have these discussions from a more nuanced perspective, and I think that in the long term that may continue to happen. I hope so, even despite all the hatred towards this film early on. And I hope that it does, because this is a discussion that we really needed to have, because all the entertainment that comes out now doesn't make us think. It just keeps us mentally subdued. And maybe that's clearly what the powers that be want, but I think at some point people are accepting that that should be the norm. And Coppola's here saying like, "No, please do not accept this. Like, think more of yourself, think more of entertainers, think more of creators." And this is going to be such a flawed review, honestly, but all I can say is what I can say, what is important, what I think is important, and let you guys digest that how you so choose to. And I hope that people can relate, or people feel a different way, especially if they're upset by the film. But what makes Adam Driver's character so great? And I think that he does a good job with the film. And this is such a hard film to make an actor shine in. Um, at least his character. I think other characters shine in really great ways, but this film is such a burden on Adam Driver as an actor. And I think that he does do a really great job with what he's given, and really kind of just brings forth the sentiment that needs to be said, even if even if it's hard to get to that point. Like, Adam Driver's character's name is Caesar, and really this film is obsessed with using the past. It's so weird. It's upset, and I couldn't come to terms with this. It's using the past, of Rome, the fall of Rome, to replicate our current society, even though the film is telling us to look to the future. It's so weird, but it makes sense. But it also, like, if you think about it in a closed-minded sort of way, you're just like, what the fuck, bro? But Adam Driver's character Caesar, what makes him special, what makes him stand out from everyone else, is that he he's one of the few people that is willing to leap into the future. The first like 5 minutes of the film shows you this, and that he has control. And I'm not really spoiling anything with that. I mean, if you watched the little preview segment that Coppola put out for everyone to see, it's that little segment's the very beginning of the film. Adam Driver's character, he just chooses to leap off a building, and then he stops time. And at first I was really confused by this, but really, if you take into account the fact that he is a creator, he's a visionary, it makes perfect sense. Like, he's one of the few people that are a genuine visionary, that he has control over time while leaping into the future. And how many of us really have control over our future, or the future of the world? He's stopping all of time around him, and nobody really sees that except for the person that he ends up falling in love with. And Adam Driver's character struggles with letting go of his past, and his struggle really is a representation of what we need to learn how to do. We definitely need to let go of our past in order to control our future, to do that. And when he harps on his past, he has no control over anything. And then when he finds his love interest in the film, that helps him let go of his past, and it gives him this control, and it it lets him see that he can be the true visionary that he was meant to be. And it's so hard to get this character, Adam Driver's character, over with an audience, because I mean, reality is he's attached to like the elites, like the people that run, like the family that runs everything. It's so weird. Like, Coppola is no stranger to nepotism. Like, his entire family, I mean, he's always been nepotistic in his films. I mean, Talia Shire is in the film. I mean, that's his sister, and she was in, The Godfather as well. And, he's always had his family involved in things. He is no stranger to nepotism, and he literally embellishes in it in this film. And, in a way, it's hard to get that over with people in modern day, especially. Do I think that this would have been a better film in a box if Adam Driver's character, we saw his character come up from nothing and find his own wealth and then be the the visionary for the future? Yes, in a box. But then I think that film would be like 4 hours long too. Um, so there's that. But yeah, I think that as viewers, we have to let go of that. And that's a lot. It's a hard thing to do. I mean, it's weird. This film in ways is like, it has a lot to say, but then like from scene to scene, it just feels like a lot of shit is a waste. But is it? I don't I don't know. I don't have all the answers, man. I think that's the point of this film. You're not supposed to have all the answers. We're supposed to question our future. This film is a representation of an empire falling, of what killed Rome and how that reflects on our current society now, and our progression is completely in question. People are arguing of the powers that be more than anything else, and we're just the peasants that are involved. And this film does not concentrate on us at all, like the general average person in the film. It really doesn't. And at first, I felt that was a huge flaw, and it really is in the grand scheme of things. But in a way, it is representative of how the powers that be do see things. They don't give a fuck about us. They pretend. I mean, how many rich and elite people, particularly the people in power, pretend so much to relate to us, pretend that they could be just like us. Meanwhile, they can't. They have no idea, and they don't care to. Only when they need you for something. That's the only time they pretend. Other than that, they don't really hear our voices. They don't care about our voices. Everything is just to fool us and kick the can down the road and get over how they can get over. And I really feel as though this film not concentrating on our society very much in a way like just the average person, it is kind of representative of that, even though it does feel like a flaw as well. When it comes to how this film is shot, in some ways it's Coppola relies on what he's really good at while also experimenting. And some of it I liked and some of it I didn't. This film does this thing where it constantly breaks up into like 3 different segments at once, and I hate that. He tries a lot of different things, and he's really, you could tell he as a creator is trying not to lean on his past in too much. I mean, he does, but he also doesn't. He's trying a lot of new things, and do they all get over? No. But I think this film challenged him as a creator. I think it challenged the people behind it, the actors, to not necessarily harp on the past, not fall back on the past. And I really think that that was the most challenging for Coppola himself, really. And do I think that he executes with that struggle? In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. This film is his vision, but it's so open-ended that it's so hard to really say what the right calls are. And I guess that explains why he's been thinking of this, of how to make this film for like, what, 40 years? He started it in the 80s, and he spent all this time, and finally he's been able to make it. I mean, that's a lot, man. It's a lot. The way it's shot, I think that some of the camera work is amazing. It's becoming, it is Coppola, and in some ways it's bothersome, and CGI is, oof. It's, a lot of it is okay, and a lot of it is terrible. And I mean, like, this is like a major motion picture, it feels like, even though it's made for like half the price of a lot of really big budget films nowadays. There's a lot. There's a lot here. There's really no way to go about it, other than to say that there's just a lot. And the CGI is god awful. It's hilarious because, like, and I guess I've been trying to not be super spoilerish, but the reality is that, and I guess, this is going to be like sort of an indirect spoiler. We do not see much of the future because the future is unsaid. We're not supposed to know what the future is. We're fighting for this now as a society, and we don't know where it leads. We can't. We don't know where it leads because we're not supposed to. And I think the biggest flaw that's on purpose with this film is that it concentrates so much on now and so little on the future. And you could tell Coppola didn't want to go all in on showing us the future and the next step, because you're not supposed to do. He didn't want to do that on purpose. As as much as it makes the film feel flawed, and when he does shows us like these little bits of the future, it's hilarious. It reminds me of the Jetsons. It's so bad. It's like the Jetsons, but less mechanical. It tries to be mythical, I guess, or like fairy tale-esque, which is what he kind of calls the film, a fairy tale. Now, did I do a really good job in this review? I don't know. I guess that's for you guys to say. If you haven't seen the film, then I think you're to think it's a terrible review. And if you've seen the film, I think you're going to understand where I'm coming from in terms of how I'm choosing to go about this. Honestly, my final thoughts are you should see the film. I don't. And the shame is not many people are. I mean, I went there Friday night to see the movie, and I was like, me and my friend were there, and there weren't many butts in seats. It is what it is. There really weren't many butts in seats. And I feel like Coppola is accepting of that reality. It is what it is, but it would have been interesting to get more people's thoughts on this. This is a really interesting film in a lot of ways. It's super frustrating, but I think it's something that everyone needs to see. For better or for worse. I think the more people see it, the more they'll hate it. And even amongst the critics, that has been their answer. It's just, let's hate on which we do not want to come to terms with. We do not want to understand. We don't want to use this piece of entertainment as a self-reflection, but that is what entertainment should be. It should be a self-reflection. If it be directly, indirectly, societally, whatever have you. And this is it. I don't know if this is necessarily a good film, but I think it's a good tool. It is something that needed to be addressed. And I think that more people should think about it. I think that that's really important. So, like I said, I don't know if this is a good review because I don't really have an answer for you, but I'm only being honest in saying that. So it kind of just is what it is. But I would love to know your thoughts about Megalopolis and just, what you're spitballing. I'm spitballing here. You can call me a hack. I mean, that's fine. I get it. I only have like 3 reviews under my belt. I get it. So it is what it is. I don't know, 2 or 3. I don't even remember. That's how bad I am. I've done a couple of retrospectives in my time on a different channel. So, yeah, this has made me self-reflect in a lot of ways. And I think that is what makes Megalopolis great, even with what I think are genuine flaws in some ways and what I think are intentional flaws. I think that is the genius in this piece of entertainment. You have to self-reflect. You have to think outside of the box. You have to use this piece of entertainment to reflect on our society and ourselves as a whole. And a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people won't even watch the film, sadly, whether it's because they think it's bullshit or because they don't even know that it exists, because, well, it seems like that was intentionally done on purpose. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. If you can, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me over on Twitter at Mario Kart if you'd like to continue the conversation. Link is below. And yeah, guys, definitely check out my video game channel if you like, like video game discussion and whatnot. Yeah, guys, with all that being said, I'm out. Peace.